Bail is a simple concept. You put up money as an incentive to show up to your court date. But the cash bail system in the United States is riddled with problems.
The average savings of an American is under $400. So when you're given typically a bail amount that's over that, you're not going to be able to afford it. Bail is a right. Release before trial is a right. When a person's not guilty, they have the right to be free until they're found guilty.
For too many, the difference between incarceration and freedom can literally be a few $100s.
It's simply unconstitutional for people to be held because they can't afford bail.
But there are proven ways to incentivize people to show up to their court dates without taking away fundamental freedoms or risking public safety. States and cities across the country are turning to these new alternatives. Many aren't perfect, but if they catch on nationwide, it could be a game changer for the criminal justice system. There are almost 750,000 people in jails across the United States. 2/3 of them have not yet been convicted of a crime. They are legally innocent. The majority are there simply because they are too poor to pay bail.
The brief period of incarceration that bail presents is a devastating life force for people.
The median felony bail is $10,000. For the typical detained defendant, that's equivalent to 8 months of income.
Nowadays, we're treating misdemeanors a lot more like felonies, and so we're seeing a lot of bail amounts that are upwards from $5,000 to $20,000 for a misdemeanor crime.
SHIMA's research has shown that excessive bail is especially debilitating for poor communities of color.
The whole bail system disproportionately impacts minorities. Blacks are 2 times less likely to make their bail amounts. They're also 2 times more likely to pay higher bail amounts for the same crime.
And the impacts of pretrial detention on cycles of poverty and mass incarceration are enormous.
If you're incarcerated, you're 3 to 4 times more likely to receive a sentence, 3 times more likely to serve a longer sentence in jail. You lose your job often, you lose your home, you lose your childcare.
Studies show that excessive bail and pretrial detention are actually worse for public safety and cause more crime in the long term than those who are able to obtain release before their trial.
Even 4 days in jail is going to make you 35% more likely to recidivate, to be charged again with a crime. There are massive life consequences.
So, what do we do about it? There are a few key methods that can help avoid the impacts of cash bail. First, arresting fewer people.
The best thing we can do for criminal justice and for defendants is to avoid them going to jail in the first place. And if they have to go to jail, keep them in there for less than 24 hours.
One thing police can do is issue a citation instead of arresting somebody for certain low-level offenses or misdemeanors. Citations avoid the costs of imprisoning someone and save them from the financial burdens of bail. So far, citations are helping reduce arrest rates across the country. Beyond reducing arrests, a number of states and cities across the U.S. have eliminated cash bail for certain low-level offenses, and many have turned to risk assessment tools. These are typically point-based tools designed to help judges and prosecutors predict if a defendant has a low, moderate, or high risk of failure to appear or committing another crime if released.
A risk assessment basically goes through a bunch of questions. Have they committed crimes before? How many crimes? Some of them ask, do you own a home? Do you have a cell phone? Have you failed to appear before?
In 1992, Washington, D.C. eliminated the use of cash bail. Judges rely on risk assessment tools instead. As a result, courts release 94% of defendants before their trial. Pretrial services monitor or supervise many released defendants and notify them of court dates with texts and phone calls. And while electronic monitoring and drug tests can be invasive, the costs of supervision, rather than incarceration, save D.C. taxpayers over $1 million every day. Across the country, new reforms have shown that it is possible to grant more people their freedom while ensuring public safety and court appearances at the same time. But these tools are not without their fair share of criticism.
All of them have some sort of racial bias. A lot of them say, do you own a home? Do you have a cell phone? They ask about, renting versus owning property. That's a problem when you have Black individuals that have 10 times lower household wealth than white individuals. And so that's not fair, right? To say, do you own a home? Well, a Black person is unlikely to own a home. Does that mean they shouldn't be released on bail? And so risk assessments, in their intentions to be kind of more fair and more just, they actually end up discriminating against the people that are poor and often minorities.
But Shima says there's an even bigger problem with risk assessment tools. Virtually none of them distinguish between misdemeanors and felonies.
Somebody that has a previous misdemeanor driving offense gets the same risk quotient as somebody that has a felony for rape. I mean, these people should be treated very differently, but they're often not.
Advocates for bail reform hope to create a system where pretrial release is the norm rather than the exception.
We need to have a goal, a percentage goal of release. So let's make a benchmark of, let's try to release 90% of people that we can. So we detain 10% of people who are truly unable to be released safely. Aside from those people, I think everyone else can be released and supervised appropriately. Without that, we're never going to get better. Right now, there's probably 200 pending bills on bail all across the country, and everyone's trying to figure out how to make the system better. Judges and prosecutors need to be reminded that, look, bail is a right. At no point should a judge ever give a bail amount to somebody without considering, can they afford to pay this? Really respecting that would be a culture shift. That's good. That's really the way the system was intended to be.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos on reforming the criminal justice system, please like and subscribe, and check us out at freethink.com.